Kelvin Lewis Gunnells was born October 29, 1955. His mother, Joyce Gunnells, gave birth to him in a small clinic in Lone Star, Texas. He was born with his amniotic sac fully intact, or in caul. This is a very rare occurrence. Those born in caul in ancient times were considered to be messengers sent by a higher force to guide mankind in matters both physical and of a higher spiritual nature. Although Kelvin has never believed in this idea, those closest to him say that he has lived up to it. Kelvin tries to live his life in a way that will be an example to others and leave a legacy of love for God and his family. When Kelvin was barely 6 years old, his 4-year-old sister, Laura Denise, was killed in an accident. A trailer's hitch hit his sister in the head while Kelvin and another boy were playing on the trailer. She died on the way to the hospital. Her death changed Kelvin's life and caused him to develop a deep depression. At age 12, he began to rebel against his parents by drinking. By the age of 17, he was addicted to drugs and had earned himself the nickname around Ore City as Wild Man. He would drink or do drugs with his friends and then come home each night and cry himself to sleep. There was not enough alcohol or drugs to numb the trauma of his sister's death and the guilt he carried. This lifestyle continued until Kelvin was 20. In April of 1976, he saw two men walking down the road and decided to give these two hitchhikers a ride. He recalls that they both seemed to have a sense of peace about them. They spoke to him about God and their relationship with him. After he dropped them off and began driving home, he continued to dwell on the two men. He realized that no matter how high he got, he never felt happy or at peace. But these two men were sober and had more peace than anyone he knew. Kelvin had been raised in a Christian home. As he drove, scriptures he read as a child came back to him, and he realized that Christ was the answer. He surrendered his life to Christ right there as he drove. From that day on, he never touched drugs or alcohol again. Kelvin told me, "If I hadn't surrendered my life to Christ on that day, I would probably be dead or in prison, since that is where a lot of my friends from back then are now." Although his journey to emotional healing and a deeper understanding of God was just beginning, he already had more peace than he could ever remember having before. In 1994, Kelvin began working for Awana Clubs, a Christian children's ministry, as the Awana missionary for East Texas and Louisiana. The job required communicating with churches and people across both states. During the first few years of his ministry, he would spend hours on the phone organizing events, trainings, upcoming visits, and giving counsel to Awana Club leaders. Kelvin would recruit his wife, Sandra, and their 3 children to help him manage the mass mailouts to his churches and their leaders. In those days, the phone, postal service, or visiting in person were his only options for communicating with the 68 Awana clubs he was responsible for. In 1995, he bought his first computer with internet capabilities, and thanks to the help of a friend and ministry team member, Kelvin owned the first Awana website and his own email address. This was before Awana headquarters had even created a website. Soon after, he would also be the first person with Awana to use internet for online event registration and later accepting payments online for events. Kelvin said the internet completely changed the way he ran his ministry. He can now offer online trainings, use online databases to keep up-to-date records of the churches in his area, send information out immediately for free, and uses applications like Zoom to attend meetings with his supervisors across the country. The advancements of the internet also allowed Kelvin to stay in touch with family across the country and reconnect with old friends. In the fall of 2000, Kelvin began suffering from dizziness. After suffering for a few weeks, he realized that his symptoms were not going away and made an appointment with his general physician. After trying medication to resolve the dizziness, he was referred to an ENT, who sent him to get a magnetic resonance imaging of his brain. The magnetic resonance imaging, or more commonly called MRI, uses a powerful magnetic field, radio frequency pulses, and a computer to produce detailed pictures of organs, soft tissue, bone, and virtually all other internal body structures. The MRI revealed that Kelvin had an acoustic neuroma, a non-cancerous brain tumor behind his left ear. If left untreated, it would continue to grow, resulting in severe headaches, disability, and eventually death. Kelvin had most of the tumor removed in March 2001. He lost the hearing in his left ear and some muscle function in his face. However, after a year, he was almost fully recovered. In 2015, Kelvin began suffering from dizziness again. Another MRI revealed that the tumor had grown back. In December 2015, he and his wife Sandra flew to California, where one of the top surgeons performed a microsurgery to remove the tumor once more. This microsurgery was much less invasive than his previous tumor removal. Therefore, his recovery was much shorter, and Kelvin was back to work in 3 months. Without the advancements in medicine that led to the creation of the MRI, his tumor may not have been detected, and Kelvin's life would have been very different and much shorter. When you sit down to visit with Kelvin, he will openly talk about the mistakes he has made in life and what he would do differently if he could go back. If you speak to anyone in Kelvin's life, they will tell you that he is one of the wisest people they know. He is the first person many of his family members go to when they are looking for prayer and counsel. He has tried to live a life that is a testimony to his faith. He has 6 grandchildren, ranging in ages from 18 months to 16 years of age, 3 of which he meets with on a daily basis to read and discuss the Bible. Kelvin is still an Awana missionary. He now serves the churches in Northeast Texas, which includes 130 churches. He also serves his local community as a city councilman and volunteers with shelter kids. Kelvin has touched the lives of hundreds of people through his ministry with Awana and through his personal relationships. During my visits with Kelvin, our conversations would occasionally lead to the worries of life, especially the unknown. He would remind me to read Philippians 4:8, which says, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things." Kelvin has taught me that it is a waste of time and energy to dwell on the what-ifs in life or things I cannot change. Instead, we should dwell on what we know to be true and worthy of praise, and learn to trust God with everything else. Knowing that God is in control has become a source of peace for Kelvin. His goal in life is to glorify God and teach anyone that will listen how to gain the peace that he has in Christ.